Imagine you go to sleep watching one of your favorite comfort YouTubers. Corey Kenshin, Glamrock Dusky, Pyrocynical, I don't know, maybe Alastor Hacon, Wendigoon, Early Bird, etc, etc. After a night's worth of good rest, you slowly begin to wake up the next morning and you hear something unfamiliar. It's got a full cinematic score, a bunch of crazy sound effects, and a celebrity's voice. Wait, this is no YouTuber. What am I?
Fuck no.
What the fuck is this? Hello everyone, my name is Alastor Hacon, and today we're exploring the world of free movies on YouTube. In case you didn't know, there's a selection of movies available on YouTube for free. For premium users, you can watch these movies completely free, while regular users can often watch these movies for free as well, just with ads. Surprisingly, you'll find a variety of different films available for free, from shit you've never heard of before to popular older movies that were all the rage in their day. At the time of writing this script, Full Metal Jacket and Tropic Thunder are available for free. But today's theme is the explicit context of movies that I woke up to. YouTube will sometimes just insert a random feature-length movie into your bedtime queue. So all 4 of the movies I'm covering today are movies that I woke up in the middle of. I'll also tell you exactly when I woke up during each movie so you can get a little extra laugh. Before we get started, if you'd like to support me and check out a novel from an indie author, hit the link in the description and take a look at my sci-fi military series Blur Havoc. Or if you'd like, check out my Patreon, Subscribestar, or affiliate links. If anything, a like and subscription are enough. It would be much appreciated. So Norbit is actually the only movie we'll be covering today that I've already seen beforehand. However, if you know anything about Norbit, you understand how, even knowing what happens in this movie, the batshit insanity that lies within is enough to send you into a state of shock if you wake up to it. Norbit is about this guy named, Norbit, who was abandoned by his parents as a baby in the fictional town of Boiling Springs, Tennessee. There is a town named Red Boiling Springs here in Tennessee, but looking at the racial demographics of the real city versus the ones in this movie, and taking into account that I probably graduated high school with more people than the entire population of Red Boiling Springs, yeah, I'm not betting on this being the same town. Right off the rip, this movie's kind of mean-spirited. But this movie is also so bodaciously ridiculous that you can't help but find it funny. Instead of placing Norbit, a literal baby, on the front doorstep like in a typical fashion, Norbit's parent throws him out of the driver's door like a fucking bowling ball. He tumbles to the front of this orphanage and is almost eaten by coyotes. Like, damn, my nigga, the hate for Norbit was literally universal. So this Asian man named Mr. Wong, played by Eddie Murphy, owns a 2-in-1 orphanage/restaurant and picks up little baby Norbit, saving him from coyotes. The fact that I've lived in Tennessee for almost 4 years at this point, and I just now found out that we have coyotes is crazy. The fact that I had to find that out with this movie as the conduit is even more so. Mr. Wong is a character that could not exist in 2025. Honestly, I don't think this entire movie could have been made in 2025, but we'll get to that. Norbit grows up with this girl named Kate, who had a mutual crush with him. But one day, Kate was adopted, leaving Norbit at the orphanage. As he grew up and was subjected to the Geneva Convention defying generational war crime known as public schooling, Norbit meets the human female obelisk herself, Rasputia Lattimore. Rasputia basically forces Norbit to be her boyfriend and introduces him to her brothers, Earl, Blue, and Big Black Jack, each played by Clifton Powell, Coltrane, Lester Spate, and Terry Crews respectively. They treat Norbit like one of their own, even feeding him the best part of the turkey at dinner.
Turkey ass. Eat up, sucker.
Norbit and Rasputia grow up and Norbit decides to marry her, Both adult versions of the characters are now played by Eddie Murphy. You are going to realize very quickly that there are two genres of people in this movie: generic people and cartoon characters. The majority of the main cast are cartoon characters, save for one singular character, and that starts to show itself in the script at this point in the movie. Half the jokes in this movie are just fat jokes, and most of the funniest jokes are not even about Rasputia. At the wedding reception, Mr. Wong, who is basically Norbit's surrogate dad at this point, starts telling jokes that, if it wasn't for the fact that Rasputia literally is the size of one, you wouldn't be wrong for thinking that these jokes that Wong tells are racially charged.
When you was a little boy, you say, one day I find a girl in my dreams, and then you marry a gorilla.
Like, come on, you can't tell me that a real person would actually go this far with their jokes at a wedding reception of their surrogate child. Speaking of cartoon characters, Cat Williams is in this movie, and he is almost literally his cartoon character from The Boondocks named A Pimp Named Slickback.
Now hold up, Slickback.
No, that's a pimp named Slickback.
That's what I said, Slickback.
No, it's a pimp named Slickback, like a Tribe Called Quest. You say the whole thing, a pimp named Slickback. Yes, for a limited time only, we are proud to present to you our barbecue, baby back, horseradish, mustard, and peanut butter encrusted ribs with a slight Jägermeister infusion, sprinkled with chamomile leaves with a horseradish and dandelion salad.
So Norbit and Rasputia go home, and this montage of them getting freaky was one of two flagship scenes that the movie was marketed on. They were very proud of this montage, and I don't even think it's really that funny. It relies almost solely on shock factor, so once you've already seen it, it's not really that funny anymore. After the honeymoon period, Norbit and Rasputia settle into everyday life as a married couple. And in her adult years, Rasputia is literally every stereotype about black women known to man. Big, loud, bossy, aggressive, confrontational, the whole kit and caboodle. So the inciting incident is that Norbit comes home one day to the sight of Rasputia cheating on him by getting absolutely boned by her power tap dancing teacher Marlon Wayans. That's not actually his name in the movie, I just can't remember his character's name. But Norbit calls Rasputia the Queen of Whores, and this sets her off. The two basically almost accidentally kill each other while Rasputia is trying to chase Norbit. At the end of the chase, Norbit busts his entire ass and then throws his wedding ring away. I didn't mention it, but Rasputia, as the world's first weapons-grade big back, has Norbit get her barbecue weekly from a place run by ex-pimps named Pope Sweet Jesus and Lord Have Mercy. And man, I find it hilarious that we casually used to joke about sex trafficking. Norbit goes to the orphanage he was raised in to do a puppet show for the kids, but shit goes off the rails very quickly when Norbit's life bleeds into his art.
Look, I'm tired of playing with your ass, bitch. I know you got ribs in that basket. You better give them up smooth, or I'm gonna break my hoof off in your goose ass.
Or better still, why don't you just call Buster and tell him to come over and power tap you? Because in addition to being the pig of the fuck.
Ooh, wow, okay, deploy the discount Zoe Saldana.
Kate.
Kate has returned into Norbit's life and is played by Tandy Newton. This is kind of a trope I've noticed in a lot of black films, is that the ideal love interest tends to be the least ghetto member of the cast. Oh, what do they mean by that? Norbit and Kate reminisce about their time as children, and Kate invites Norbit to dinner. Norbit is so ecstatic that he is completely fine with Rasputia getting her back beaten out by Marlon Wayans. But lo and behold, Norbit meets Kate for lunch and... Oh shit! Kate has a fiance named Dion. Kate reveals that she wants to buy Wong's orphanage with Dion's help, but Dion seems to be somewhat against it, even if he's not super aggressive about it.
He's going to help me buy the orphanage, Norbit!
No, wait,
So
slow down. I mean, we're just out here just scouting it out, all right? Yeah. This is a nest egg.
The next day, Rasputia runs over this pug that she's had mad beef with for no reason other than because that nigga is ugly. But this causes Norbit to try to leave, only for Rasputia to conveniently reveal that she's pregnant. This manipulates Norbit into staying with her. At the festival, Dion tells Kate he has to slide, but as he's leaving, Norbit overhears the beginning of Dion's phone conversation.
It's never a bad time for you.
Thus raising suspicion. This movie deadass sets up and executes the third act twist way better than a lot of recent movies do. Norbit introduces his wife to Kate and Rasputia orders Norbit to get her a wine cooler. Remembering that Rasputia is supposedly pregnant, Norbit points this out and, instead of trying to continue lying, she bold-facedly admits that she was never pregnant.
Oh, I had gas. I still got it. There's your child. Now go get me something to drink.
Norbit leaves to get a wine cooler for Rasputia, but Kate invites him to come dance with her. While Kate and Norbit hang out, Rasputia launches a little white girl into low orbit for stealing her hat. Why did I mention the race of the little white girl? Well, it's because it's necessary to know this for the next joke.
It's raining little white women. My prayers have been answered.
Guys, she's like 12. Rasputia catches Norbit jamming on the dance floor with Kate. Rasputia then slams a fucking big speaker into Norbit's skull, knocking him unconscious. Holy shit, Rasputia's an Avengers level threat. Norbit wakes up in the hospital where he sees a commercial for background checks. It seems like a nothing burger, but this is actually crucial to the final act twist. Kate stops by to check on Norbit, and man oh man, for a woman that's about to get married, she's spending entirely too much time with another man.
Wouldn't let that shit happen to me, though.
Meanwhile, we catch up with Dion, who is about to skip town and abandon Kate. He's ditching Kate because he doesn't want to stick around and deal with the orphans, and that he has his own kids that he's not taking care of. Damn, bro is a walking statistic. The Lattimore brothers approach Dion to persuade him to marry Kate so she can sign away the orphanage to the Lattimores, and then they can turn it into a titty bar called Nippolopolis. The phrase tiggle bitties captured my middle school for a whole year.
And fake tiggle bitties.
The Lattimore brothers are complete cartoon characters. They are the funniest part of the movie because of how goofy they are. Back at the hospital, Kate invites Norbit to go to the water park with the orphans. Norbit initially declines, but he accepts after Kate tries to fucking kill him with the defibrillators.
Hey, come on, Kate. Don't play with those. Those things are that's plugged in. It's
Clear.
Hey, no clear. Stop, Kate. Stop, Kate. Hey,
Come on, yes.
That evening, Dion expedites their wedding so they can get married that Saturday. The next day, Norbit tries to sneak out, but Rasputia invites herself to the water park. A little before that, Norbit was placing postage on an envelope. We'll come back to that. It's crazy that Rasputia just woke up and she's already chewing gum. The water park sequence is the flagship sequence of the movie. It was in all of the advertising and trailers. I'm talking like basically every comedic scene in this sequence is in the trailers, and it wasn't really that funny to me. Again, it relies solely on shock factor because of how big Rasputia is. But in this scene, Kate tells Norbit about the wedding on Saturday, and he is heartbroken. Moving along, Norbit is waiting for the mailman and doesn't seem to get the parcel he was looking for. At work, Norbit uses reverse psychology to get Rasputia to let him go into town to spend time with Kate. During this montage, Kate's a little too chummy with a guy she's not getting married to. She spends a lot of time with Norbit and it feels a little inappropriate. I mean, we all know it's because they are going to get married by the end of the movie, but in terms of a real life relationship where a woman is about to get married, it's definitely crossing a boundary. Now, the next sequence is when quite a few contrivances appear in the script to move the plot in a very specific direction. The Lattimore brothers tell Norbit to have Kate sign some documents, which he does gleefully. What they didn't tell him was that the documents weren't typical documents. They were papers that would renew the liquor license in the Lattimore's name. Okay, simple enough. Norbit gets all gussied up in a zoot suit at the advice of Lord have mercy and Pope Sweet Jesus. Norbit basically takes Kate on a date where they do the thing. You know, the thing where they order the fucking food and they never actually eat it. During Kate and Norbit's date, Blue drops by Rasputin's place to give her some food, but for some strange reason he gets nervous. Why? Well, because he somehow knows that Norbit isn't just getting Kate to sign the license papers, but he's on a full-blown date.
He's on a date with that fine skinny girl.
How does he know that? Why would he be nervous telling Rasputia that Norbit is with Kate for the explicit purpose of getting those papers signed? They're about to be rich, so why is he worried? Rasputia storms off to stalk the streets for Norbit, only to find Norbit and Kate kissing at the church after they rehearsed the ceremony. So the whole purpose of Blue getting nervous and spilling the beans on something he shouldn't have even known about was solely for the sake of the plot? Yes. After the kiss, Kate runs away and we get this moment.
Awkward.
The preacher saying awkward actually makes the scene less funny. I think it should have gone like this. So Norbit chases after Kate to apologize for kissing her. But plot twist...
All my fault. I never should have kissed you.
No, I wanted you to.
Ooh, scandalous. Norbit returns home and hands the documents to Big Black Jack, but Big Black Jack tells Norbit something foreboding, that he'd really hate to be him right now. Well, what could that mean? Norbit goes inside where Rasputia sits in the dark as Norbit checks the mail. Well, I wonder what... Holy shit, bro, what the fuck? Norbit should be fucking dead. And how strong is Rasputia exactly? Because that was some shit that Captain America could do. As Norbit lays on the ground, something completely out of left field happens. Frankie, the pug that Rasputia ran over, runs over to Norbit and...
Kill a bitch.
Excuse me? What did you say?
You heard me? Rub her out. Take her down. Ice the bitch.
What in Sam Hill is happening in this movie? This was another one of those moments that was heavily advertised in the trailers, but Frankie the Pug talking to Norbit only happens in this one scene, and it is never referenced and does not happen ever again. Rasputia comes out and says that if she sees Norbit talking to Little Miss Thang Thang again, she's going to kill her. So the next morning, she locks Norbit in the basement like the red-headed stepchild of the family, forcing him to clean the basement. Meanwhile, Dion, for some unexplained and asinine reason, decides to tell Kate that Norbit duped her on the liquor license papers. Why? Isn't that what you wanted? For her to sign the papers? You telling her that there was a dupe at all jeopardizes the entire plan. Kate goes to Norbit's house to confront him, but in a bid to keep her safe from Rasputia's wrath, he insults her and tells her that the kiss they shared last night meant nothing. Can she not tell that Norbit is saying all of this under duress? He keeps looking away, and it's implied that she can see his distressed expression and anxious body language. Rasputia then comes out to rub salt in the wound. Kate leaves completely heartbroken. Can you tell that we've now reached the second act low point? This is something that everyone who has read Save the Cat by Blake Snyder knows. The section of the second act known as All Is Lost. That's the part where everything is going wrong for the main characters, and there may be no hope of them winning the day. But there's this one problem with a lot of films that follow the three-act structure. Properly explaining why we're at the second act low point. This movie came out in 2008, and this is a problem that movies 15 years later still struggle with. The Marvels is a recent example where the second act low point is botched as well. It's the second act low point because, well, the beat sheet says we need a second act low point. And in Norbit, we have Dion telling Kate about getting duped because, well, we need her at Norbit's house so that we can get the second act low point. Look, I've got nothing against the Blake Snyder beat sheet. Hell, 3 of my books were outlined via the beat sheet. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you're going to use the beat sheet, fucking commit to it. Don't go through the motions just because the script says so. Make it logically sensible how you got there. For example, in this movie, instead of Dion nonsensically telling Kate about getting duped, Kate should have received an email, a call, a text, or something concerning the liquor license being renewed. Maybe from Wong even, since he's been absent from the movie since the first act. That way, the plot follows a logical progression of events instead of, and then Dion told her about the scam. Side note, watch that clip from Matt Stone and Trey Parker about the and then problem. It greatly alleviates any illogical actions in your story. Norbit decides to skip town when Wong shows up out of nowhere. He gives Norbit some words of encouragement, then gives him one little bit of trivia. Mail always comes late on Fridays. What? That's not even true. What the fuck is this? Norbit checks the mail and the piece of mail he was waiting for shows up. It's the background check by mail that he ordered earlier in the movie before the water park sequence. But before he can warn Kate of what he has found, the Lattimore brothers lock him up in the basement. For some reason, Coltrane's head is steaming in this one shot. For some other reason, Earl tells Norbit their evil plan to take over the orphanage and turn it into a titty bar. Why? I have no fucking clue. In this basement, Norbit makes a few calls from the information he got on the background check. Convenient that Rasputia forgot there was a phone down there, but whatever. Norbit breaks the glass to escape and heads to the wedding via bike. Yeah, there was like a whole side thing where Kate was teaching him how to ride a bike, and yeah, whatever. Coltrane warns Big Black Jack that Norbit has escaped, and Big Black Jack punches the fuck out of this guy, telling him to get off his phone. Wong gets word that Norbit's coming, and the ex-pimps make a scene to stall the wedding while Rasputia and her brothers try to intercept Norbit. The way Pope Sweet Jesus and Lord Have Mercy behave in this scene was all the rage at my middle school when this movie came out. And honestly, this sequence is still the funniest part of the movie for me. Tandiway's expression in this one shot is so fucking funny for some reason. She is the least cartoonish character in the film, and seeing what is effectively the straight man reacting to a room full of cartoon characters will never not be funny. The fact that Dion sits down later in the sequence kills me too. Then Kate starts jamming in her wedding dress, just letting the insanity happen. I fucking love this silly shit. Norbit is knocked off the road as the Lattimores almost crash their truck. Norbit busts his ass again in the creek and decides to hoof it on foot to the wedding. Norbit arrives at the wedding, and this is around the time I woke up. Yeah, you completely forgot about the theme of this video, didn't you? Imagine waking up to the sound of pimps in the church and choirs singing. You have no fucking clue how confused I was hearing this shit at 5:30 in the morning as my eyes started to slowly open. Right as Dion has had enough and tries to get the wedding moving, Norbit arrives to object. He not only reveals what the Lattimores plan to do with the orphanage, but also what he found in a background check on Dion. Dion had been in 4 prior marriages and had cheated those women out of nearly $300,000 in divorce settlements. How'd he do that? I have no clue. But when Norbit tries to show the receipts, the background check was utterly destroyed by the water when he fell into the creek. Norbit seems to have lost, but plot twist, he called Dion's baby mamas to the wedding, and they revealed that yes, Dion is a giant fraud. Rasputia and the Lattimores attack Norbit once they realize that their plan has been foiled. Tired of the Lattimores terrorizing the town, the people of Boiling Springs stand up to defend Norbit, which is kind of weird from a narrative perspective, having the main character not really partaking in the climactic moments of the film, but whatever. The crowd get the brothers to stand down, but Rasputia isn't going out without a fight. Just as Rasputia is about to rip Norbit apart,
Did somebody just call me a whale?
Yeah, I know who.
I don't really know what this effect is, but it was clearly a choice. With that, the town is free from Lattimore tyranny, Kate and Norbit get married, the orphanage is saved, and the Lattimores flee to Mexico where they create Nippolopolis, and Rasputia is the lead dancer. The end. Yeah, this movie was a trip, dude. While I don't think this movie is particularly good, the characters can get grating, there are several contrivances, and there are several jokes that are painfully unfunny. I can't help but find a good chunk of this movie really endearing. It's so unashamedly silly, and it doesn't try to shy away from it. If you're looking for a goofy, silly time and a good, bad movie, Norbit will give you at least 2 solid laughs. Right off the rip, I'm telling you right now, this movie was entirely too long. I found myself struggling to stay engaged with this movie as the film seems to just go on and on and on. Frankly, I'm going to try and truncate this section because I don't have too many notes. The story begins with a savant boy named Aoyama who's in the 4th grade, which either shows how smart he is or how stupid American 4th graders are, because this kid goes on science expeditions, conducts experiments, and even sets up a little research facility later in the film. Aoyama lives with his mother and sister while his father goes on international business trips. He believes he'll be a great scientist one day, and he even has his heart set out for a woman to be his wife in the future, a lady that works at the local dentist. One day, on the way to school, Aoyama spots a group of penguins in a field. Naturally, he questions where they could have come from since they're in a Japanese city that's nowhere near the Arctic or any large body of water. Kore wa penguin highway desu. Yeah, bet you didn't know I was learning Japanese. This film also allowed me to practice reading a bit of hiragana. Anyways, the intro sequence shows that there are a lot of penguins in this little town, and no one knows where they're coming from. We get introduced to some of the cast at Aoyama's school. Uchida, Aoyama's friend and assistant, Hamamoto, a girl in Aoyama's class whose father is a meteorologist, Suzuki, the class bully, and Suzuki's goons whose names either aren't mentioned or I honestly don't remember. Aoyama tells Uchida that he has a few hypotheses for why these penguins are here. They escaped from a zoo, they're runaway pets, or they're crows that have undergone some kind of mutation. Suzuki enters the classroom with his goons, and because of the classmates' expressions, I get the impression that nobody in this class likes him. He takes no interest in the penguins despite their illogical appearance, but Hamamoto enters and Aoyama shows interest in her book on the theory of relativity. Their conversation hints that Hamamoto has somewhat of a crush on Aoyama. We also get hints about Suzuki's feelings on Hamamoto as he starts blushing after she compliments Aoyama's notes.
Nice notes. Well drawn.
Penguins are so stupid.
But Hamamoto is effectively introduced as Aoyama's intellectual equal. There's also this one line that Aoyama has that's comedy gold.
As you can tell, I'm not conceited, and that makes me great.
After school, Aoyama goes to the dentist and we get our first proper introduction to Lady. Yes, that's what she's called in this movie. In the Japanese sub, she's called Onisan, which translates to older sister, foreshadowing how she views the relationship between herself and Aoyama. But Aoyama is feeling some feelings.
I'm just teaching this young man here a lesson.
Oh, yeah. Damn, boy. Damn, boy!
I like how this isn't another story where the father is either distant, dead, or absent. Aoyama's father plays an almost mentor-like role in Aoyama's life, where he may be busy going on business trips, but he always imparts good advice, affirmation, and feedback whenever he shows up in the story. His first appearance is when Aoyama falls asleep at his desk right after naming his new project. His father puts a sticky note on the book stating that the project has a good name. For how little Aoyama's father is in the story, he's easily my favorite part of this movie. The next day, Uchida and Aoyama go around town interviewing people about the penguins and how they've caused havoc. They learn that these penguins don't behave like normal penguins, up to the point that they seem almost invulnerable. Aoyama is also being trained in chess by Lady. He practices with her after school while also hypothesizing where the penguins came from. It's not really directly stated, but Aoyama seems to be beginning puberty as he starts to wonder and analyze why he has these feelings when he sees Lady's boobs. He literally starts to see boobs everywhere.
But the feeling they give me, I wonder why they affect me so differently.
Me too, kid. Me too. During their picnic, Aoyama and Uchida spot a penguin and they follow them to see if they can find the source. It leads them to a spooky wooded area where there's an urban legend about the silver moon, an orb that drives one to illness when observed. I didn't mention it, but Aoyama tricked Suzuki at the dentist, lying about him having a fatal disease. Suzuki shows up and ties his ass to a drink machine for tricking him at the dentist while Uchida runs away like a bitch. Suzuki literally pisses on Aoyama's notes for the Penguin Highway and leaves him there to rot, which, man, bro, off script for a second. I'd have to run a fade on you, bro. I'd have to beat your ass for doing that shit. I'm sorry. Oh, man, the disrespect. Unreal. Man, whoo. While tied up, Aoyama simply waits as he doesn't seem to have a plan on how to get out of this. Coincidentally, Lady shows up to help him out, which could be seen as a bit of foreshadowing, but we'll get to that. She unties Aoyama and also offers to help get his loose tooth out. After failing multiple times, Lady has one last trick up her sleeve.
Ready now!
I beg your pardon? Lady successfully pulls out Aoyama's tooth as he was flabbergasted by the magic trick. Lady says that she'll take him to the beach near her birthplace if he can figure out her secret. This scene is actually going to create a plot hole later. Aoyama then does an experiment with Lady. Whew, good lord above, the experiments I do with Lady myself.
Yeah, that brother's starving.
Excuse me. Whoa, where did that come from? Aoyama does experiments with Lady to see if they can recreate the moment where she turned a cola can into a penguin. What he finds out is that Lady can manifest penguins in the sunlight. Wait, what? How was she able to make a Coke can turn into a penguin to get Aoyama's tooth out, but she was unable to replicate the ability in later tests? But not only is she unsure of how she did it in the first place, despite the movie clearly showing us that she knew what she was about to do.
I know. This'll do the trick.
But she's also surprised that she turned a Coke can into a penguin when the sun came out. What, was it a coincidence that she was able to create a penguin that first time? That section literally makes no sense. The next day, Uchida shows Aoyama a penguin he found on the roof of the school. They take the penguin on the train where he seems to get fucking scurvy or some shit. I don't know, I'm not a fucking doctor. They take the penguin off the train where he crawls towards the city and then he just dies. Just joking, he turns back into a soda can. So some of the pieces are starting to come together, but it takes Aoyama a little longer than us to get it. Later that evening, Lady and Aoyama play chess and they find out that not only can Lady create penguins in the sunlight, but she can also create other things, such as bats at night. I say other things because the movie foreshadows some of these other things when Lady talks about the fuck-ass Jabberwocky and how she couldn't sleep after reading about it. Lo and behold, the universe's version of the fuck-ass Jabberwocky starts to manifest overnight. The Jabberwocky hate is unsolicited and illogical, yet very much needed. The next day after school, Hamamoto takes Uchida and Aoyama into the forest that they were about to enter before they were interrupted by Suzuki. Hamamoto basically says, yeah, that silver moon thing
is totally made up. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction.
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
The trio go into the forest where this big orb of water floats in this big open field. How no one has stumbled across this by complete accident is beyond me. But Hamamoto calls it the ocean. Why? Don't know, but it attacks anyone who gets too close to it. The trio decide to conduct an extended research campaign on the ocean that culminates into the team throwing a probe made out of Legos into the ocean to see how deep it is. It goes fucking deep, dude. Suzuki shows up and harasses the group, but Aoyama drops the bomb on Suzuki that,
if you like her, you know, Hamamoto, then you should just come out and tell her that.
Knowing this, Hamamoto warns Suzuki that she will never talk to him again if he tells anyone about the ocean. Before Suzuki can promise, Lady shows up and starts hurling penguins at Suzuki and his goons. Hamamoto doesn't like Lady, and it will become increasingly apparent why. They have a conversation about Lady where Hamamoto wants to cut her out of the experiment and Aoyama insists on her involvement. This moment from Hamamoto is funny as hell because she's all like, admit that you like her, and completely subverting the kid has a crush trope, Aoyama just responds with,
Okay, but that's not important right now.
There's also a funny scene where Hamamoto and her father meet Lady at this festival, and Hamamoto is staring daggers at her the whole time. The movie really is a love parabola, where one person will have a crush on another, but their interest will be completely unrequited. Later, Lady decides to bump up the timeline on her reward for Aoyama figuring out her mystery. She decides to take him to the beach where she grew up. But tragically, on the way there, Lady falls ill on the train just like that one penguin did.
You gonna be okay?
I think it's safe to come to a conclusion here, but the movie keeps ignoring the obvious implication simply because Aoyama hasn't reached it yet, which is one of the major criticisms I have with this movie. Yes, it's meant for kids and younger audiences, but I feel like most kids would have figured out what was happening by now. The penguins can't go too far away from the city. There's this anomaly within the city. Lady can create the penguins that die when they get too far away from the city, and now Lady herself almost dies when she tries to leave the city. It's such a clear-cut answer to what is happening that it almost feels insulting that the movie doesn't want to show us the conclusion yet. Why doesn't it? Well, it's because we have to have the second act low point where Suzuki tells Hamamoto's father about the ocean, who just so happened to find out about the ocean because he read his daughter's diary like a nosy bastard. When Hamamoto finds out that Suzuki is snitching, she lays on one of the fattest, most devastating slaps that a 4th grade little girl could possibly land on another person's face.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Bro, look at the expression on Suzuki's face.
Emotional damage!
So this scene where Aoyama decides to go on a fast is where I woke up and realized that some weeb shit was playing on my TV, and it was playing without my consent like a fucking pervert freak. He wants to do a fasting experiment due to the fact that Lady can somehow live without eating or drinking. Another pointer to what the obvious revelation is. There's this random scene where Aoyama's little sister wakes him up and she's crying about the fact that their mom is going to die one day, and I was just like, why? Not why as in why would a little girl worry about this kind of thing, but more so, why would this scene be in the movie? Because this scene ties into the original ending of the novel that Penguin Highway is based off of, and spoiler alert, the ending of the movie is different enough to make this scene of Aoyama's little sister completely moot. Aoyama's dad gives him some sage advice after his failed fasting experiment. Sometimes you have to take care of yourself because poor personal maintenance can lead you to missing the obvious conclusion. The next morning, Aoyama finally puts the pieces together and realizes who, or more appropriately, what Lady is. Simultaneously, the ocean is expanding and Hamamoto's father was sucked into it. While at school, Aoyama helps Hamamoto escape so they can contain the ocean and save her father. Suzuki also shows up and makes amends for betraying Hamamoto by helping her and Aoyama escape. Suzuki and his goons hold the line so Aoyama and Hamamoto can make it to the ocean, and as all of this is happening, Lady shows up with a penguin platoon to defeat the Jabberwockies and clear the way for Aoyama and Hamamoto. If you had zero context for that previous sentence, you would have thought I was on meth. Aoyama and Lady break through the ocean to find a surreal post-apocalyptic world primarily submerged in water. In it, everyone who was sucked into the ocean is perfectly fine, and Lady tells Aoyama what must be done. She has to sacrifice herself to destroy the ocean. See, the ocean is a power source that fuels the Jabberwockies, the penguins, and even Lady herself. The penguins are created by Lady to subdue the ever-encompassing ocean from absorbing the entire town. But as she stopped making penguins, the ocean started to enlarge. So once she uses the penguins to destroy the orb, it will also take her with it. Aoyama and Lady say their goodbyes. Everyone is freed, and they all lived happily ever after. But there's one change to the story that appears to only be in the anime adaptation. At the coffee shop, Aoyama sees a lone penguin in the nearby field. When he goes to meet it, it changes into something else. But at the place where its feet would have been lies the Lego spaceship Aoyama used as a probe for the ocean, hinting at Lady's possible survival and return. And that's the scene that completely severs the narrative tie between the ending and the scene with Aoyama's little sister. In the novel and manga, Lady is gone and there is no hint of her return. She effectively dies in the story, but the anime changes that. What is the point of exploring the idea of loved ones eventually dying if the main character doesn't have that or a similar experience by the end of the movie? It's called a narrative through line, not a narrative non sequitur. It effectively makes the scene with Aoyama's sister a scene that probably should have been cut, since it doesn't amount to much in the larger picture. Overall, Penguin Highway is a perfectly fine movie that animation and anime fans will probably like, but the intended audience of children may find this story a bit boring and unengaging. Give it a watch if you're in the mood for something a little bit slower and not as intense. Adventures of the Wilderness Family 2, also known as The Further Adventures of the Wilderness Family, is a 1978 movie about a family who decided that the city life isn't for them, so they pack their bags and move out into the Rocky Mountains, which I can relate to severely. But this movie is a hard one to critique because it's from an era of movies where things just happen and the succeeding events are a direct consequence of previous events. There is no central plot or objective, it's just event after event until the movie ends. Which, to its credit, lends itself to being rather airtight in the writing. You can't get too many plot holes from a movie that is simply 90 minutes of events happening, then the consequences of those events happening back to back. But the problem that this creates is that you get a narratively steady story that doesn't really change in pace. If you feel like the movie is going by slowly, you are going to feel that way the whole time. Fortunately, I felt like I had a fun time watching this film from a bygone era. It felt fresh and different. It's easy to forget what actual filmmaking looks like when you have the actors standing in a big-ass blue or green room and pretending that something is happening despite the fact that post-production could make them react to something completely different from what they were initially told to react to.
The task I have in mind will require a great deal I got absolutely miserable and had a little cry to myself.
It was so distressing and off-putting and difficult that I thought, I don't want to make this film if this is what I'm going to have to do.
This movie on YouTube literally starts with the modern-day Lionsgate Company animation, which feels like severe gaslighting. The film itself starts proper with a shot of a real plane flying in the air for real. I know that Mission Impossible tends to shoot their films with real air vehicles and all the time, but this initial shot is just jaw-dropping. You actually get the sense of height and vastness with this one shot because, and I hate to sound repetitive here, it's a real plane in the air for real. And wait, they got an actual fucking bear for this movie? Oh man, and a real raccoon? Honestly, the fact that I'm stunned that they actually flew a plane and got real animals for this movie is sad. Everything now is CGI slop, so seeing a non-CGI plane actually flying in the air is a serious culture shock. And there are so many moments like that in this movie where you realize how overly engineered most modern movies are because of how simple this movie is. They would have CGI'd all of this shit like that car crash in Along Came a Spider. So Skip, the father of the family, greets the doctor Mike and his friend from town. The doctor is stopping by to drop off supplies for the family. Skip greets them with his two kids, Toby and Jenny, as his loving wife named Pat watches from afar. Ugh, look at this heteronormative bullshit. Look at them existing. After unloading and giving the kids their vaccines, the doctor flies back, but then we meet Boomer, an old loner with no family. He migrates throughout the year with his pet pack mule. Skip invites him to stay for the night and Boomer reluctantly accepts. At dinner, Boomer mentions the legend of Scarface. No, not the coke-fueled crime lord. We're talking about a ferocious wolf with a big-ass scar on his face. Wild the fucking moment here, the crew trained 2 bear cubs to enter the shed where Boomer sleeps and simply not maul him to death. Again, how would modern Hollywood produce a scene like this? There's an even more impressive scene later that had my jaw on the floor. Boomer gets spooked by the bear cubs and yells for help from the family, but they assure him that they are harmless to him. After some more shenanigans and the family dog Crust getting into a scuffle with a wolverine, Boomer leaves and clearly feels hesitation in his heart. I also woke up during this part where the family's eating dinner and the first image I see is a raccoon fucking praying. What a world. The winter comes and the family plays in the snow with all of their animals. During this sequence, there's this shot of a mountain lion looking over the family while playing in the snow, and it plays out so oddly because the happy music is playing while this dangerous predator is looming over them. And sure enough, this deadly predator attacks the family. Skip fights the mountain lion and it is dead ass. A real man and a real mountain lion fucking duking it out on camera. This shit is legitimately amazing. It has been so long since I've seen animals be trained to do more than stand still so the CGI animators can move their mouths. Unscripted tangent. Just saw Superman yesterday. It was just like disgusting watching that CGI dog jump around and look like a gummy worm the entire movie. It was so unnatural. I'm not saying that you had to get a real dog for all of the scenes, but the scenes where the dog is just being a normal dog, you couldn't have gotten a normal dog with a CGI red cape at the very least. Despite the theatrics, the mountain lion sequence is almost completely inconsequential. Skip is unharmed and the mountain lion just runs away. Side note, I fucking love all of these animals, dude. They're so well trained, and despite the fact that I know they're trained to do this stuff, their inclusion doesn't break immersion for me. The scene with the wolves trying to attack the elk later in the movie was my favorite because fun fact, I fucking love wolves. They're so fucking cool, dude. Like, fuck. This is also where this very specific cycle of events occurs. Skip either takes the kids somewhere or they go somewhere. Something bad happens. Pat worries about the kids' safety. Repeat. The family goes into town to visit the doctor again and they do some Christmas shopping. During this montage, Skip exhibits horrible trigger discipline, which was the style at the time. Side note, go watch my video on gun mistakes in movies. When they get back home, they're visited by a fully grown black bear named Samson, played by the ultra celebrity megastar known as Bruno the Bear. Look at this. They're just petting this nigga like he's a Labrador Retriever. Good Lord above, I'd be pacing the room with a 10mm in my hand if I was there. The family helps Samson find a place to hibernate for the winter, then a few days later, Skip takes the kids ice fishing. During their time out, the kids get chased by a pack of the coolest animals on the fucking planet, dude. Wolves are my fucking spirit animal, dude. Of course, Skip saves the day, but shout out to my boy Crust. He is an absolute ride or die every time something threatens the family. He squares up with a wolverine, a mountain lion, wolves twice. Crust is indeed the bestest of boyos. Skip takes the kids home and there's no manufactured drama about the kids getting themselves in danger or some shit. Just a hot bath for them and off to bed. Skip is an awesome dad, dude. But Pat has a conversation about the safety of their family and it was so refreshing to watch. It genuinely subverted my expectations. The subplot of this movie isn't about Pat wanting to leave Skip for her own happiness or some bullshit. Pat is more concerned about the safety of her family. She doesn't throw around ultimatums or threaten to leave Skip if her kids get into danger again or something. I also like how Pat doesn't threaten to leave Skip with the kids because of their mishaps. Skip asks what she wants to do and she says that maybe they can all leave and return to the city together. I love how Pat doesn't take the nuclear option the moment it usually becomes available in these movies. It's almost as if issues can be resolved without separation being the first option. Holy shit, brother. Again, modern movies usually write their female love interests to be self-centered and emotionally volatile for no reason other than to move the plot forward. There's also some foreshadowing in this scene.
Are you feeling all right?
I don't know. I'm just tired, I guess.
That night, the Wolverine returns, and I did not know this until I watched this movie, but Wolverines can spray stink juice just like skunks can. The Wolverine fucks up the family's meat that was frozen outside as a pack of wolves led by Scarface show up. Seeing as the meat is now completely useless thanks to this incident, Skip has to go hunting for more, which is where we get that scene of the wolves ganging up on the elk. I'll watch this shit 16 times right in front of you because of how cool wolves are. Oh yeah. Oh fuck yeah. Get that nigga. Get him. Yeah. Wait, Skip kisses his daughter on the mouth? I love couples in media where the woman gives the man a nickname like Robin Hood or Tiger. Yes. Appeal to my male fantasy. Skip successfully gets the elk, and it's the one time in the movie where Skip takes one of the kids with him, and nothing bad happens. The family prepares for Christmas, and what do you know, Boomer comes back, and he bears gifts. What a joyous Christmas miracle. The kids also have a gift for Boomer, and he's emotionally touched by the kids giving him a gift. This scene seems to highlight how Boomer seems to have had an arc in the first movie where he didn't have any family, was a loner, and now is finding a family with the Robinsons. After a few days of fun, Boomer leaves to go get his pack mule who's currently hibernating or something. I don't fucking remember right now. The kids get completely fucking lost in a blizzard on the way back from seeing Boomer off somehow. Skip goes out to find them, but he too gets stuck in the storm while Pat is back home worrying about all of them. The kids survive by building a burrow in the snow and huddling up to keep warm. The next morning, Skip finds them, but Pat is beginning to grow weary.
It's nothing, Skip. I was worried.
We then find out that the wolves actually killed someone named Maribel. I have absolutely no idea who she's talking about, but wolf supremacy, baby. I will post boomer memes with wolves looking intimidating with macho tough guy phrases on them unironically. Fuck yeah. Skip notices that Pat doesn't seem to be acting herself after Toby and the bear cubs break the radio. You're probably conditioned to think this is when her and Skip will clash and she'll give him an ultimatum, just like I've been conditioned, but nope, she's actually just sick. She asks him to just hold her as she breaks down in tears. God, it's like a fresh cup of cold spring water, so crisp, so refreshing, so wholesome. Skip gets to work trying to repair the radio to get Mike the doctor on the line. With no luck, Skip realizes that he needs to hike into town, or else his wife may not make it through the winter. But unfortunately, soon after Skip leaves, Scarface and his wolf pack show up and try to break into the cabin and kill the family. The cabin also almost nearly gets burned down by a broken lantern. Man leaves family for 30 seconds. House nearly burns down. Lord Jesus. Skip hears Toby trying to shoot the wolves and rushes back home after getting caught in an avalanche. Hell of a shot this is, by the way. How is the stuntman not dead? Skip comes back and saves the family, but Pat crashes out because of the howling wolves, and Skip is prepared to burn the world down to ease his wife's pain. I love it. I fucking love it. Male fantasy represented successfully. Just as all hope seems lost, Mike the doc flies in to save the family. He says that he couldn't get a hold of the family, so he rushed out to check on them. That's some high trust shit right there, bro. High trust society right there. Can the 1970s share some with the modern era? Honestly, I was scared Crust was gonna die to the wolves. I love wolves, but that would have been this movie crossing the fucking Rubicon. I would have turned this movie off if Crust died. The bestest boy deserves the bestest ending. Doc Mike checks on Pat and says that Pat has pneumonia. As long as she gets some rest, she's going to be fine. And of course, Boomer comes back, and then Samson comes out of hibernation to give the family a visit. Everyone smiles, and they all live happily ever after. The end. More or less. This movie was such a wholesome and refreshing experience. You don't realize it until you watch an old family movie like this, but the lack of cynical bullshit in this movie is such a nice palate cleanser after watching decades worth of deconstructionist, cynical, depressing, and subversive slop. I highly recommend sitting down and watching Adventures of the Wilderness Family 2. Or The Further Adventures of the Wilderness Family. Whichever one. What's that? Oh shit, this movie is no longer free to watch on YouTube? Well, it's free on Internet Archive, so give it a watch. Wow, a movie that I get to speak positively about. How delightful. Hopefully I feel the same way about our last movie. Holy fucking shit, this movie sucks. This is actually the movie that gave me the idea to make this video. What is Samaritan, you ask? It's a superhero movie starring Sylvester Stallone that was released in 2022. You literally have never heard of this movie? Me either. It was released direct to streaming on Amazon Prime, and about 4 years later, it was free to stream on YouTube for a few months before they removed it. Yes. This video has taken me quite a minute to get to, I do apologize. So Samaritan is about a shithole city named Granite City, where 2 kids were born with superpowers, but they became the victim of a hate crime where a bunch of people burnt down their home and killed their parents because of their genetic gifts. One kid grew up and became the superhero Samaritan, while the other became the supervillain named Nemesis. Nemesis was fueled by so much hate that he infused a sledgehammer with his hateful power as a means to kill his brother. The two had a blood feud that resulted in a fateful battle in a factory that led to the supposed death of both of them. 12 years later, a boy named Sam idolizes Samaritan and hopes that one day he will come back. His mother is a widow and is struggling to keep a roof over their head as a nurse. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so Sam links up with the wrong crowd to do a job for a gang leader named Cyrus. I love how the bad guy faction rolls up in the typical evil-looking old muscle cars that basically scream, "We are evil." Their first job? Stealing lottery tickets. While the job was technically a success, the adult gang members open the box and there's nothing but a bunch of bags of fucking Utz chips. I mean, everyone's a winner when Utz are around. You can't go wrong with Utz. They're fucking delicious. Discount 6ix9ine here tries to blame this on Sam, but Sam fights back. Impressed by Sam's chutzpah, his panache, Cyrus awards Sam 110 bones for his bravery. During this, he reveals that he looked up to Nemesis as some form of class hero, a symbol of the working men's struggle or something.
Nemesis always punched up. I was about your age when he died. He was my hero. Nemesis humbled the proud, gave people a beating who needed a beating. To people around here, Nemesis was a god. Samaritan, just another cop to protect the rich while the rest of us went hungry.
Which is an odd thing to see in Nemesis because we've already established that Nemesis went rogue because of the hate crime that was committed against his family when he was young, not due to any kind of financial, societal, or class struggle. Sam goes home and passes his mom the skinny, and she's upset with him because he's hanging around with the wrong crowd. Lady, the reason why your son is hanging around the wrong crowd in the first place is because you need money. 7-8 doesn't like being embarrassed, so he and his goons try to jump Sam near his home, but the local loner named Joe Smith shows up and defends Sam from the teen ne'er-do-wells, and he smacks their tallywhacks. But he does so in an obviously superhuman way by grabbing 5'4's knife by the blade and crumpling it like notebook paper. So this is where I already called the twist. What twist? Well, the film is kind of obvious about it, but Joe is not Samaritan like Sam will consistently accuse him of being. He's actually Nemesis. The first hint is that throughout the sequence of Joe bitch slapping these kids, There's this intense and dark music playing instead of the typically heroic music that crescendos when Joe grabs the knife. Not as obvious as I advertised? That's okay. There's a whole scene that has like 4 of these types of moments back to back. That night, Cyrus and a small team of his members raid a police evidence room and steal the hammer of Nemesis. During this scene, Cyrus acts like the complete opposite of how he was established earlier in the movie. Before, he was cool and collected, more like Killmonger or something. In this scene, he suddenly starts acting like Jared Leto's Joker.
Let me guess. You like him because he was the good guy. Me? I got a different perspective.
Cyrus is kind of a weird villain who doesn't behave the way you'd think he would. More on that later. Like a crackhead in need of a fix, so he starts getting desperate for money, Sam breaks into Joe's apartment on the 2nd floor and starts rummaging through his shit. Well, I say quote unquote breaks into, but Joe leaves his window unlocked for some reason. Sam finds a scrapbook full of all these newspaper clippings with headlines about Samaritan. To avoid getting caught, Sam simply steals the scrapbook. Yes, the scrapbook that Joe is so secretive about that he hides it at the top of his closet despite having no visitors because he's a loner. As if that wouldn't have been the first thing he would have noticed. And save room for the icing on this retard cake because here it comes. Sam narrowly escapes Joe, but Joe comes home and Sam left some of the newspaper clippings on the floor and left the fucking closet door open. What the fuck? Are you serious? I was better at sneaking into the kitchen after bedtime and eating the butter in the fridge when I was 5 than Sam is at committing a fucking felony. And because this happens the day after Sam witnesses Joe's superhuman showcase, Sam is obviously the primary suspect. Rightfully, Joe goes straight to Sam's apartment and tells his mom that her son is a thieving little bitch hole and he needs to give back what he stole. Sam immediately relinquishes the scrapbook and apologizes because he thought Joe was someone else. Later, Joe asks who Sam thought he was, and Sam tells him that he thought Joe was Samaritan. Sam accuses Joe of being Samaritan, and Joe ignores him. As Joe walks away, a car flies by and hits Joe in the middle of the street in broad daylight. Turns out, 4-2's cousin is one of the older gang members in Cyrus's posse, and 2-4 told him about it. So they get revenge on Joe by running him over. Instead of just doing a drive-by with actual guns that your gang is confirmed to have, you decide to smash your car into an old guy and fuck up the windshield in front of everyone? Was it for the shock factor? You could have made a regular drive-by that had shock factor, come on now. The first thing I saw when I woke up to this movie was...
Listen, kid.
Seeing Sylvester Stallone getting run over as the first thing you see before you start your day is definitely not something you'd forget easily. Despite getting his back beat in, Joe is still alive and all of his bones are broken.
Are you okay? Fuck no.
He begins to heal himself as all of his bones snap back into place. Sam celebrates because he knew that Joe was Samaritan, but Joe is actively experiencing a nuclear meltdown in his heart. And I'm not necessarily exaggerating. According to Joe, if he takes too much damage, he has a heart attack. The only way to stop it is with cool water or tubs of ice cream, which is what Joe has a trove of in his freezer. Sam asks Joe about Nemesis, and not only does he express frustration about the topic, but he explicitly tells Sam that he does not want to talk about Nemesis. Again, the movie is very obvious about this twist. That night, Cyrus wreaks havoc in the city, cosplaying as Nemesis, and for some reason, despite everyone knowing what Cyrus looks like and what his attire is, they all think Nemesis has returned and not that Cyrus is wearing Nemesis's garb. Also, Cyrus is not age accurate to how old Nemesis would have actually been. Cyrus looks like he's in his late 20s or early 30s, but as stated earlier in the movie, Cyrus was Sam's age when Nemesis was around, putting Nemesis in his 50s or 60s. Nobody with 2 brain cells would reasonably think Cyrus was the real Nemesis. The following day, Sam shadows Joe, and this is when the kid started to give me the same vibes as the kid from Black Adam, and he really annoyed me. There's this moment where Joe accidentally bumps into this guy who gets rude with him. Instead of abusing his powers and atomizing him on the spot, Joe decides to have a cooler head and let the guy walk away. Sam, for some reason, thinks that the person he thought was Samaritan would have launched a rude but still innocent person into the air over a petty 2-second squabble.
Hey. What are you looking at?
Sorry.
You just let that happen? Should have thrown him over a tree or something.
Sam and Joe get back to the apartments, and randomly, Sam gets teary-eyed and asks if Joe is ever scared.
You ever get scared?
Where the fuck did that come from? He never explains what exactly he was scared of in this scene. Sam then creates an inconsistency for the sake of this conversation.
When I get scared, first thing I think about is running. And I always freeze up.
No, when you get scared, you've shown 2 different responses. Fight or flight. You don't always freeze up. You tried to fight 9-0 when he lied about you, and you ran away when he jumped you later. Joe gives some wise wisdom about ego fighting and how getting into a fight with someone who has nothing to do with your life that can also take your life is foolish. This serves no purpose in the story, but it is nice advice. Joe asks for Sam's watch, and this is the symbolic item that will represent their friendship. Pretty cliche. Sam then asks Joe to teach him how to fight, but Sam almost immediately nearly breaks his hand on Joe's abs.
Oh, really?
Which leads to a scene that is so heavy-handed with foreshadowing Joe's true identity. First, Joe says that he likes fixing things because he thinks some old things deserve a second chance. Sam then says,
Like you? Nah, I'm just kidding.
Pretty obvious reaction there. Then he expresses visible frustration when Sam asks about what happened between Joe and Nemesis twice over. Once by crushing the toaster even more, then with a close-up of him closing his eyes and trying to control his emotions. Then we get a brief flashback accompanied with this line.
Maybe, but none of you know what really happened. All I know is that Nemesis died that night.
And then Joe gets upset and tells Sam to leave when he mentions that some guy claimed that Nemesis wanted to throw the city into anarchy by blowing up the power grid.
Albert Kastler says that Nemesis had a plan to blow up the power station and throw the city into anarchy and chaos.
He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Go home.
Okay, all of that was in one scene. I feel like the writer was not confident that people would say that the hints to the twist were always there, so they overcompensated because most of the hints are super duper on the nose. Sam goes with Cyrus, sees him execute a guy, realizes that Cyrus really is a bad guy, then gets hospitalized because he tried to save his friends from 2-7, to which his mother blames Joe for some fucking reason. I don't get that choice.
What the hell happened with my son?
Some kids beat him up.
And you couldn't stop them?
No.
Some hero you are.
Joe was nowhere near the aforementioned ass whooping. He was at home and saw 8-2 drop Sam off at home in a fucking shopping cart. 4-1 reports back to his cousin and Cyrus that Joe survived the hit and run, so Cyrus decides to send some more goons after Joe to bring him to Cyrus. The gooners try to jump Joe, but Joe mollywops them. The last one tries to pull some sucker shit and uses one of the blackout bombs from earlier in the movie to try and kill Joe and the little girl who I thought was, honestly I thought that was a boy, but Joe saves the day while also accidentally revealing his powers to Granite City, so he goes home and prepares to skip town. Meanwhile, Cyrus hunts down Joe. During this assault, this happens. What the fuck are they shooting at? And why is Sam and his mother's initial reaction to gunshots to run up to the window in shock and... it's so they can be spotted by Cyrus. Cyrus kidnaps Sam to lure Joe, and Joe finds Sam's mom clocked out, and even she is aware of who Cyrus is and tells Joe that Cyrus took Sam.
Sam.
Who took him?
Cyrus.
Wait, why would anyone think Cyrus was Nemesis when he wears the same fucking jacket every day? Joe heads to the goon cave where Cyrus waits and the final battle is set to begin. Right before the climax, Joe reveals the truth.
You keep calling me the good guy, not the good guy. I'm the bad guy.
Oh wow, I'm so surprised. Joe is actually Nemesis and not Samaritan. Joe does aura farm after this garbage truck explodes though. Now, my first question was, how would Cyrus react to the fact that the guy he wants dead is actually his childhood hero? The answer is he doesn't react. He reacts more to this Harley Quinn XP being impaled on a table. He never has a teary-eyed, rage-fueled rant about how he looked up to Nemesis. He doesn't call him a fraud, nothing. He mentions that Joe betrayed them, but nothing about his own personal motives and backstory. He does a lot of roaring during the final battle, though. Cyrus tells the gooners to cut the power to the city, and for some reason, Sam's mom leaves the safety of her home and enters the riots in the streets for no reason, really. She's never really acknowledged again until the climax is over. Those shots seem to only be in here to explain how she got to the goon warehouse at the end of the movie. During the final part of the climax, Joe just drops Nemesis's hammer for no clear reason. Again, there's a lot of shit that just happens for no fucking reason in this movie. Coincidentally, Joe's heart begins to go nuclear, but the movie puts it on pause until Joe kills Cyrus. How convenient. Sam breaks open a water pipe and stops Joe's heart attack. Joe takes Sam, carries him out of the fire, and they both escape. But there's this fake-ass confrontation mere minutes away from the credits where Sam tries to confront Joe about being Nemesis and how he can change, but he clearly did change because he went from a mass-murdering supervillain to an old jerk with a heart of gold. Joe tells Sam that good and bad live in everyone's heart, but it's up to them to make the right choice. Right after saying this, he slides out of frame like fucking Batman. 7-2 gets arrested. Sam tells the world about Samaritan's return. Joe watches from the shadows with an approving smile. The end. So is Joe now going to become Samaritan? Is 869 going to be the sequel's main villain since they made it a point to show that he gets arrested? What was the point of that ending? Will there be a sequel? Yes? Yeah, Samaritan was some buns. This is definitely delegated to play this in the background for noise when your house is too quiet, tier entertainment. The kid was annoying, the world feels small as hell, and stupid things are done by the characters to facilitate the plot. Good thing I watched it for free. Oh shit, that's right, they took this movie off of YouTube. So now we've come to the end of the video, my friends. I thank you for watching. Today we learned that there's a whole catalog of free movies to watch on YouTube that the TV app may randomly decide to slide into your rotation of videos while you fall asleep. So take a look. Inside a book, reading Rainbow.